Good evening. Welcome to Northbeat. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin in the Northwest Territories, where the evacuation order in Fort Good Hope is ending tomorrow. The state of emergency is also coming to an end. The announcement happened this afternoon, 3 weeks after the community was evacuated due to wildfire. The chief of Fort Good Hope says it was a collaborative decision to let people back in.
After 1:30, we got word that the perimeter of the fire was contained. The fire was contained, so we got online with MACA and the EMO team, along with our council and our EMO team, and discussed whether it was safe to lift. And the Norman Wells or the GNWT Fire Ops advised us, alongside with Norman Wells Fire Operations, advised us that it was deemed safe, and Norman Wells superintendent deemed it safe also, so we supported their call to lift the evacuation order.
Perot says the goal is to get everyone back to the community as soon as possible. He says essential workers are clear to go back today, and re-entry for the rest of the evacuees starts tomorrow. Perot says flights will be organized for everyone staying in Norman Wells. Flight times will be posted in the Norman Wells School gym. The GNWT says flights will also be arranged for the evacuees in Delaney. And an evacuation alert has also been rescinded for the Mayo and Keno areas in the Yukon. That alert was issued Saturday because of risk from the Roaring Fork fire. Yukon Protective Services says the risk has diminished thanks to rain and containment efforts. Some promising steps there for communities facing wildfires in the north right now. Let's take a look at the current situation in the territories. Starting in the Yukon, there are 81 active wildfires. 11 of those are getting a full response. Those fires are in the Watson Lake, Carmacks, Mayo, and Dawson districts. In the NWT, there are 49 active fires, at least one in every region. The busiest, though, are the North Slave, South Slave, and Dutcho regions. A fire ban in Yellowknife has now been lifted. The city says recent rain and cooler temperatures have lowered the risks. The ban had been in place since June 20th. And similar cool, wet conditions in the Yukon also have resulted in a lifting of fire bans. The Yukon government says the level 2 fire restrictions have been lifted in the following districts: Beaver Creek, Haines Junction, Carmacks, Ross River, Dawson, Mayo, and Old Crow. Those restrictions had been in place since June 27th. Officials in both territories are reminding people, though, to be safe and responsible. In northern Alberta, a wildfire is hampering operations at an oil sands project. Production has been cut back, and non-essential personnel have been taken out of Suncor's Fire Bag project northeast of Fort McMurray. There are several fires in the area, but they're being all managed together. Alberta's wildfire agency says only one of the fires is listed as out of control. It's burning about 8 kilometers from the oil sands project. Suncor says there's no danger right now, and the project will be ready to resume full production as soon as it's safe to do so. Several firefighters in Nunavik, Quebec received some new training last month. Volunteers learned to fight wildfires from Quebec's fire protection services. This comes as wildfires are continuing to rage across Canada, as we just heard, in the north as well. The Kativik regional government says last year's fires prompted them to be more prepared this year.
The smoke from several of the wildfires in the territory did impact some of the communities. There was a visible fire that was seen from Kuujjuaq. It was across the river, but many of the residents were able to witness this fire and see it. However, it didn't directly impact the community, as it didn't get close enough to the community to basically initiate a response.
Vale says the risk of a fire breaking out is low, and this season hasn't been as dry as last year's. Devastated by fire last year, the hamlet of Enterprise NWT continues to be rocked by political turmoil this year. Less than 5 months after being elected, the mayor of Enterprise has resigned. Sandra McMaster won the job in February, defeating the incumbent by just 4 votes. Now, a new mayor is taking over. Carla Ulrich has that story.
In the resignation letter, McMaster said stepping down was the right decision for her, and she did not feel supported by other council members. McMaster did not respond to calls and messages from CBC. Former Deputy Mayor Barb Hart will now take over as mayor. She says the resignation has created challenges for the council, but she says they remain focused on the needs of residents.
We want to work together to address all the goals and concerns and needs of the residents and try and start moving forward. I mean, it's been a very difficult year for everybody. I feel for every single resident, whether they lost something or they didn't lose something. This has affected everybody. And to see the separation and the anxiety, it's heartbreaking.
This is not the first blow for the Hamlet Council. Shortly after McMaster won the election, 3 newly elected councillors refused to be sworn in. One returning councillor, Jim Dives, stepped down. They cited a lack of confidence in McMaster. Dives successfully ran in a by-election after stepping down. He says the resignation was not a surprise.
She wasn't attending any meetings without reason, and she was only at one meeting in almost 3 months. She basically claimed that everybody was being mean and nasty and whatever, but I mean, you get what you put out.
Dives now takes over as deputy mayor. Carla Ulrich, CBC News, Fort Smith.
Nunavut RCMP have confirmed the drowning death of a 28-year-old man in Talojoac. On July 3rd at around 10 p.m., RCMP were flagged down by a bystander. That person said someone had drowned while trying to skip his snowmobile from the sea ice to the shore. People who saw the incident used a boat to try and rescue the man and performed CPR, but he'd already been submerged for some time. The man was taken to the local nursing station, but efforts to revive him failed. Police say they're treating it as an accident. CBC's community reporter Bob Lyle in Talojoac says Nunavut Day celebrations have been postponed until after the funeral. Other community events such as the fishing derby have also been cancelled. The community is currently trying to raise money to help fly-in family members from out of town. The city of Yellowknife has fixed multiple breaks in private pipes that are believed to be the cause of last month's sudden spike in water usage. Luke Carroll has that story.
On June 18th, the city started pumping water from its backup source, Yellowknife Bay, instead of Yellowknife River. And that's because water was flowing out of this pump house behind me at a high rate. In a document filed to the Mackenzie Valley Land and Water Board, the city wrote that it discovered 6 with a possible 7th break in private pipes that could have caused the spike. The city says they've all been fixed now. But this comes after the city paused the regulatory process for a project that would replace a nearly 60-year-old water pipeline that runs from Yellowknife River. Now that pause came because the city says there's no money for the project right now. Carrie Black is an assistant professor in engineering at the University of Calgary. She says this issue is being faced across the country, but more so in the north.
The ground is literally changing. That's causing some of these issues to happen more frequently than we might expect to, and that's certainly problematic. So I think, what we're seeing in the north is essentially infrastructure failing potentially at higher rates and more frequently than we're seeing further south.
She says with the cost of repairs rising, there's few available solutions, but there is at least one.
And that's that we pay more for our water infrastructure and our water. And it's, straight up, that's not a popular opinion. No one wants to pay more because it's a difficult change that you have to experience. But the reality is we are having a difficult time making ends meet with what we're currently allocating towards infrastructure.
Now, Black says that this responsibility is on governments higher than the city, like the territory or the feds. Luke Carroll, CBC News, Yellowknife.
The MV Louis Cardinal ferry on the Mackenzie River outside of Sigachik NWT is shut down. Officials say it's a mechanical problem. As Des Lorraine reports, some tourists are frustrated with the delays, while others are making the most of it.
It's quite fun for now, but probably 2-3 days in, probably wouldn't be as much fun, you know.
Delayed on the Mackenzie River, waiting for the ferry to come back online. Some tourists are taking it easy in campers. Others set up tents.
It was okay, a little rainy and windy, but compared to the Arctic Ocean, better than that.
The ferry is essential up here. It's a part of the Dempster. Without it, traffic comes to a stop on the highway. For some travelers, this delay means a lot of planning wasted.
I was planned to start my hiking trip 11 days on Monday, but it seems I will miss it. I booked this trip like a year ago, so it's a huge loss.
For this couple, another few days isn't an issue.
We actually got engaged at Tuck, so yeah, that was kind of the end of our journey, if you like. So
the beginning.
Or the beginning.
No word on what the mechanical issue is. An email from the Department of Infrastructure say the work being done is essential, and the ferry will be closed until at least Monday. Des Lorraine, CBC News, Inuvik.
Residents in Coral Harbour, Nunavut are celebrating their first community beluga harvest. Local hunters say the sea ice broke earlier this year and many beluga were spotted in the area. Hunter Dino Bruce says everyone helped to get the boats in the water as quickly as possible.
Coral Harbour to Snafu Point was filled up with beluga whales. Literally everyone in town were down hunting, and people thought belugas were in the harbor because there might be killer whales nearby.
He says it could be that they were escaping the killer whales who hunt them, or just the early ice breakup. Bruce emphasized that the hunters only took what they needed for the community.
Does public transit really need more police officers? And so this is it.
Welcome to the Greenbelt.
It is now believed that Titan was destroyed. It makes sense that they get a larger share, or does it? All of this, just single detached homes.
Yes.
What do we know? How is that even possible? Well, with a little bit of help, I think we can explain it.
About that with Andrew Chang. Watch free on CBC Gem.
When we see Team Canada on the world stage, we're witnessing pure greatness. What we don't see is their struggle. We don't see Maggie McNeil navigating her anxiety, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander getting cut from his high school team, or Ellie Black hearing she's just too old to compete. What we don't see makes us who we are. We're all bravely facing the odds in our lives, and our bravery is our victory.
This is unbelievable.
The heart and soul of any city is best served on a plate. Très bon, merci.
I have some women to tell you about. You don't know them, but you will.
Thank you for choosing Plan B.
Tell me what I need to do to save my family.
Please enter your date of travel.
I can't do this anymore.
If you could go back, change things, would you do it?
A computer program is offering a graphic glimpse of what future climate change could look like. Specifically, it's rising sea levels and associated coastal erosion. Erosion is already a problem in Tuktoyaktuk Northwest Territories, and it's expected to be critical in Prince Edward Island as well, where this new program has been developed. The CBC's Nancy Russell has the story.
Vulnerable because it's low-lying as well.
This is Clive. With a few clicks on the game controller, Adam Fennick can make sea level rise and fall, putting some communities and homes underwater.
Well, I have to be very careful because it's a very realistic visualization and people take it to heart. I've had people react very emotionally to seeing their houses swamped with water, as you can imagine.
This is a new, updated version of Clive. The original was created in 2013 at the suggestion of some of Fenwick's students as a way to show what coastal erosion would look like in decades to come.
And I was hit in the back of the head by gasps from the audience. And I thought, oh, wow, we're really onto something here. This visualization is really effective. I've had people actually crying as a result. So I'm very careful now, a lot more sensitive to people's emotions.
The new Clive uses the latest imagery provided by the provincial government and can zoom in on any location, including areas vulnerable to sea level rise and coastal flooding.
My main message is, of course, don't build so darn close to the shoreline. I'm seduced by the ocean, so I'd love to live right on the coast. But it's not a realistic option anymore on Prince Edward Island under climate change in many places.
This was the first public presentation of the new Clive, with a chance for residents to ask about their properties, including Nora Scales, who remembers the first version of Clive. The new version had some bad news for her summer house on the shoreline.
The flooding is more imminent, it's going to happen more quickly, it's more drastic. In 75 years, my house will be underwater.
Scales describes seeing the coastal flooding as scary, but also inevitable.
Climate change is a fact of life, and those of us with properties on the water have to be sensitive to it. Would I buy another waterfront property? Probably not.
Adam Fenwick says Clive can show the future, but the lessons of climate change are also here in the present.
Fiona acted like a big, great white shark taking huge bites out of our province. Certain places lost 15 meters in that one storm. 15 meters, think about that. Clive is the virtual reality. Fiona is the reality.
Nancy Russell, CBC News, Charlottetown.
The Governor General's week-long visit to Newfoundland and Labrador wraps up today. And, as you'll find out, Mary Simon has a strong connection to Labrador. Here's more from the CBC's Rivu Rashid.
I can't remember exactly when it was, maybe some years ago now, maybe 5 years ago. And I came to Goose Bay and then up to the northern part of Labrador. So that was my last trip to Labrador.
Do you have any connection to Labrador?
I have a lot, yes.
Oh.
Yes, I was born in Kanasolujuk at the Hudson Bay Post, and I have many relatives in Labrador. In fact, I met a number of them last night for the first time, and I had a wonderful evening with the family, and I got to know some of the members of our family. So I'm very happy this morning. In my work, I've always just being who I am. I inspire others, I think, by being myself and connecting with people. I love connecting with different cultures and different people, and especially in this job, it's been a really big opportunity for me to get to know Canadians much more and to talk to them about issues that they are concerned about. So one of the roles that I play has been, for me, a place where I'm learning. It's always good to learn things, and I'm learning about different issues and different concerns that people have, which is always important for my work, because I'm the Governor General has the role of the Governor General. The main role is really to convene people and to talk to them about Canada and how we should all work together as Canadians. And reconciliation has been a big part of the work that I'm doing, which is to bring Indigenous people and Canadians working more together and working in partnership, making our country with the priorities such as, equality amongst all peoples in the country. And those have been some of the things that I've worked. So when someone tells me I'm an inspiration, I just do what I feel I have in me, like reaching out to people. It's very important. I've worked on this area over my career, and in the north and across the country, there are lots of challenges related to mental health, and now it's been exacerbated by, I think, the pandemic. I think the pandemic did cause people, being home all the time with no contact has made this issue more challenging, the mental health of people. So I just want people to connect and talk about it, and that's what I'm doing across the country. I started in St. John's, bringing people together to talk about what are the issues that we face, and what are the issues that we can work on together and partner on, because I think mental health system is lagging from our physical well-being in terms of the health, providing health. So it's just an area that I feel needs a lot more attention and a lot more work.
And thanks to our colleagues in Newfoundland and Labrador for sharing that piece. The Alionite Arts Festival is kicking off today in Iqaluit with a stellar lineup. The festival is celebrating its 20th anniversary. Performers from across Inuit Nunangat and the rest of Canada are taking part this year, including Brothers Wild, Agaktuk, and Art Cirque.
We have this really great headliner lineup. We've got Twin Flames, we have Nanook.
The festival will run from July 5th to 8th under the Canadian North Big Purple tent that you just saw in front of Nakashuk School. The University of Manitoba is working to decolonize its art collection. It's doing this by replacing problematic paintings and sculptures with contemporary Indigenous art, and it's enlisted a group of Indigenous students to recommend art and purchase it. Karen Pauls has that story.
This is a piece from the university collection that we no longer display.
Deep in the University of Manitoba's art collection vault are pieces the public can't see anymore.
Instead of this, violent attacking of the bison, there might be a better option of a sculpture where they're preparing the bison that they've hunted. It kind of creates a harmful stereotype and perpetuates it further in university education. So it's best to remove these pieces.
C.W. Brooks Ip is responsible for the university's art collection. They say this painting used to hang in the president's office.
Showing us, an Indigenous experience of direct colonization.
It's kind of depicting like a we're over here and they're over there type situation.
So, as part of a 2-year pilot project, a group of Indigenous students have been meeting artists and curators, visiting studios, and recommending art to purchase.
I remember coming to campus and I just felt so unsure about my identity.
Jory Thomas is a third-year architecture student and a Red River Métis. She jumped at the chance to get involved with this project.
Seeing pieces like that reminds me of home and gets you comfortable and ready to learn as well.
Frederick Lyle Spence carves soapstone sculptures.
The ear and that face kind of pops out. It's a spirit.
In March, he created this sculpture of a goose with a dream catcher in its belly. It's called Let Your Dreams Fly, for they will bring you home.
The mindset of a lot of the students are that they're going to bring what they learn and they're going to try and make their community a better place. And so that's what I think about when I think of this.
There is debate about what to do with works of art that reflect colonial history. Should they be relegated to the vaults or used to educate? Riva Simcoe, head of collections and exhibitions at the Winnipeg Art Gallery, says there's room for both approaches.
Sometimes we need to put things away because they're traumatic, because they are harmful to our visitors, to our audiences. And sometimes there's occasions where we can reframe the artworks, retell those stories from a contemporary point of view. So the future will tell whether we burn them down or whether we store them away and lock them in the vault or whether we bring them out and use them for discussion.
Back on campus, while Indigenous art is the focus right now, the university is auditing its collection with the hope of expanding the project to reflect other racialized and queer communities.
The university is ultimately a colonial institution that is designed to serve white people, faculty, staff, and students, as well as the broader white community. and that needs to change.
One piece of art at a time. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Yukon artists are putting on a show in Whitehorse this weekend. They're taking part in Created at the Canyon at Miles Canyon. This year's theme is Salmon Reflections. Artists have set up tents by the bridge to showcase their talents, from painting to beading to collage making. Painter Clayton Connor is taking part, and he began with a scenic painting on location.
I'm just using the canyon as the focal point to create a what they call like a plein air piece, which it just means you're painting outside basically. So I found a little interesting part of the canyon here as the subject, and I'll do a landscape painting of that, and I'll probably shuffle around and maybe find a couple other spots, do a couple smaller pieces.
Created at the Canyon wraps up tomorrow evening. The art made during the event will be on display at the Kwanlundun Cultural Center this fall. Giving up a job in the city to work for the good of the world, it's a pretty familiar theme, and it's actually being lived by a real woman in South Africa. Her mission? Beekeeping, and helping preserve a species crucial to food production. Here's her story.
So as you can see, these are babies that are being made by the queen. This is a queen brood. I've got a total of 100 beehives at the moment. Some are in this farm where we're at, and others are placed amongst my neighbors. Beekeeping has helped me to understand my environment. It has helped me appreciate nature. I also do train beekeepers in the area, women in beekeeping, and those women are starting their own businesses.
If a person has got a farm of butternuts, the bees will come and pollinate so that the pumpkin will produce more because of the bees. So even in the environment, without the bees, we cannot survive.
The area in the cities, it has got so much dirt around. The air you breathe is dirty already with all the fumes, all the petrol around, and the bees clean all that.
The honey that they make, it's healthy, but you can get honey, you can make a business with it, sales, but it's also good for environment.
If we don't have bees, we won't have food, because for food to be able to exist, pollination must happen, and that's the importance of bees.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. Have a great weekend.
We're not gonna be here forever, right? Makes me want to make some changes, maybe a big one.
Your family can't take much more.
Anyone in your life know you're doing that?
Never really a good time to stir the...
So, you want to watch CBC News Explore, a new kind of news channel. Here's how to find us. We're on the CBC News app, on CBC Gem, and on your smart TV. Stream anytime. It's always free. CBC News Explore.